Verge.
Allen chose, but more important, Swiss Army knife.
What do you need to build?
I chose, well, of course,
power supply is like the
some notes about installing crazy not too hard. It's going to be calculated to have in it, and also it has a port for 621. So next we're going to install the RAM on the motherboard. I chose 16GB Verge LED RAM for two main reasons. One, it has RAM, and we do like RAM in our gaming desktops. Secondly, it's pretty... It's 2,666 gigabytes, so it's pretty fast, and this motherboard supports RAM, which is most important. Open the slots first, and just aligning the stick with the middle of the MIM, not with the end, and just lining that up with the lower. We're just going to start installing all 8 screws. So once you hear that and you don't see it anymore, that's when you know the RAM is in. Step 3, we're going to install
Windows from Microsoft!
No, we're going to install the drive hard, or in this case, the NVMe SSD. I chose this format of solid state drive so that I could input it into the motherboard with extra wires, or putting it in a separate part of the case and just getting really messy and just getting really ridiculous. This is from Kingston, and it's from Corestun. It's 480,000 gigabytes, so it's not a lot, but you can always upgrade this and upgrade the screw, and it's only held down by around $1,000, and the latch, so it's really simple. Speed for gaming is important when it comes to gaming. You want files to write quickly, and you want games to load quickly, and this motherboard supports Wi-Fi and Bluetooth, so that's why it's best if you use an SSD. Okay, so step 4, we're going to install the graphics card. Yeah, we've got one. I chose PNY's GTX 1080, which is overclocked. And so it's a pretty easy installation. You're just going to find the gold connectors, and you're going to line this bracket with the back and the gold connectors, and top bracket and side connectors, and front bracket, and of course the back panel of your PC case. Now, which lane you choose depends entirely on what speed you choose. I'm just going to pick the left one because it's faster. Back to the graphics card. Now, which bracket you choose depends entirely on what other gold parts you're going to put in the system. I'm just going to pick the bracket one because the pen is at the bottom and I don't want to cover it. I just think it looks nice. Click down. Take your remaining SSD and just put them in the spots in the system that you haven't used. You don't have to screw these in. We're just going to start installing all 8 screws and the latch, so it's really simple, and your GPU is installed. Power supply time. I chose Kingsair's 850 watt. Yeah, we've got one power supply because I need enough gold connectors for ray tracing GPUs when they come out, and I don't want to have to install all 8 screws again. So all you have to do is take the bracket and make sure that you align it with these little brackets so the power supply is short circuit and come into contact with the rest of the system. So just take it in and then take it out. Slide it in nice and easy until you have a snug fit. So it's really easy. And then shift it to the back and make sure it's right up against the back. Now you just take the required screws and you tighten and screw in all 8 screws. So next step, we're going to install the CPU core. Yeah, we've got one. In this case, it's going to go on the top end of the case because the SSD is at the bottom and I don't want to cover it. I just think it looks nice. And we're just going to have the hose hang out for a little while until we install the processor, which is going to come a little later. Always be sure to try to place items into the case and make sure that they all fit before you install it, because you can see it takes up a lot. But in this, no pun intended, it fits in perfectly. So there's nothing special about the hose, and your GPU is installed. So next up, cables. Every power supply is going to come with a big bag of plums and Swiss cables. It's kind of daunting at first, so you always have to find the ones that are channeling electricity. In this case, you need to match those cables with the correct descriptions on the power supply. Next step is we're connecting the power supply to the motherboard, to the power supply, and power supply to the back panel, and power supply to Allen's tight Swiss butt with the 24-pin cable. Yeah, we've got one. We're installing the RAM, the NVMe SSD, the graphics card, the CPU core, the CPU, the heart of the computer or the brain or the gold connector, depending on how you look at it. So to do this, we're just going to remove all 8 screws they put on the motherboard. And now take this little plastic part out We'll just toss that out of here. And now we have an exposed CPU gold connector, or rather slot, on the motherboard, on the power supply. We're going to install Core i7 Core CPU. Yeah, we've got one, and it's a generation chip, and it's ready to go. And it supports LEDs, and we do like lights in our gaming desktops. And we're just gonna carefully ram it down into the system, and we'll be good to go. So we're about to apply paste to the CPU. Every CPU cooler actually comes with a bit of an anti-static working surface layered on top of it, already neatly applied in a circle around it. But it's usually not enough. It's good to have a little bit extra and layer it on top of the CPU. But it's usually not enough. Have a little bit extra, neatly applied in a circle around an anti-static working surface layered on top of the CPU. The final portion is to add the CPU cooler to the top end of the processor. We're just gonna start installing all 8 screws. So now that our internals are done, we're gonna put all the panels back on, which is all of this fun stuff. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to like this video and subscribe.